If you're short on time, but you still want a delicious, nutritious, and hearty home-cooked meal, then this recipe is for you. Plus, I'll be sharing a few tips and tricks to get this meal plated up in no time. Welcome back to A Better Choice Homestead, where on my channel I focus on food, growing it, preparing it, and preserving it. Today is Tuesday, so this is an edition of Tasty Tuesday, and we are going to be making delicious Swedish meatballs and serving that over some egg noodles. This is going to be saucy and oh so good. So let's get started. Tip number 1, use bread. This is some of my homemade kamut wheatberry bread. I've cut the crust off. This is 3, maybe a little more than a 1/4 inch slices here. And I am just going to break that up into pieces and put it in this bowl. And this is going to create a super good binder for the meatballs without having to wait a whole lot of time. And yes, you can use any bread, but I am definitely looking forward to see how this bread behaves in this recipe. I have mentioned quite a bit lately that this is my new favorite everyday bread. Now, we don't eat bread every day, but this is my new favorite. I was on a sourdough kick for years and years, and then when I first got my Zojirushi bread machine, I was just on a nice white bread, and then I ordered some of these Corazon or kamut wheat berries, and absolutely fell in love with this recipe once I made some tweaks and figured out how to make it come out great in a bread machine. Next, I'll be searching for how to adapt that to the oven for people who don't have a bread machine, or if I don't want to use a bread machine. This might be enough bread, but I'm going to go ahead and add in this 3rd slice just because they're a little smaller than your typical sandwich loaf, shorter. But now it's looking like a whole lot of bread. So I think I'll stop right here. So probably 2 slices is plenty. And I've got about 1/3 of a cup of milk mixed up here. You know that I keep powdered milk on hand because we don't drink milk. So I whipped this up maybe half an hour ago, and we've just let that hang out to reconstitute. Now we're just going to let this bread soak while we get started in the pan. So once this is nice and mixed up and crumbly, we're just going to set it aside. Next, we're going to do the onions. Get my burner on about a medium. So tip number 2 is pre-dicing your onions. You can either buy them pre-diced and frozen, or you can do it yourself and freeze them, or you can do it yourself and freeze dry them. I'm actually out of freeze-dried onions at the moment, so I'm going to have to do that soon. So to my pan, I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of butter, and we're going to get that melted down. Once this starts to melt, we can go ahead and add our onions in, and we're going to let them cook for just a few minutes, just until they start to get soft and translucent. We've got a good coating of butter on the bottom of this pan now, so I'm going to go ahead and drop in the onions. This is 1/2 of a medium onion, so about 1 small onion, but I don't have small onions, so I did about 1/2 of a medium. We really like onions, so I tend to go heavier on them. These are just going to take a couple minutes to cook down. We can also go ahead and get our oven turned on, so that's tip number 3. Use your oven and your stove at the same time. So we're going to be cooking these meatballs today in the oven so that we can use our stovetop to cook the sauce and the noodles, and everything can be ready at the same time. Our butter is fully melted, so this should only take maybe 3 minutes tops. And we're getting our oven heated up to 375 degrees. I'm going to add just a little flavor on here in the form of some salt and pepper. Just going to mix that through, and we're going to pull these right off. Those look great. They're just starting to get translucent. They're not developing a lot of color. They are perfect. We're going to put them back in this bowl, and we're going to let them cool down until they are cool enough to handle, to touch. Because Swedish meatballs, or meatballs in general, is all about cooking with your hands. We need to form all of those meatballs. They're just translucent and perfect. So we'll set those aside to cool. Now I've got a larger bowl here, and we're gonna start doing the meatball mix in here, which is going to include our bread as well as any milk that's remaining on the bottom. And I'm just mixing that through, making these pieces of bread even, smaller, making sure they're kind of mushy. They're nicely softened at this point. It did not take long, only as long as it took to cook the onions, like 3 or 4 minutes. If you're using hard breadcrumbs, it's going to take longer to soften those. So this is definitely a time-saving tip, and it's also a delicious tip. And now we can mix in the rest of our ingredients. To the breadcrumbs, we're gonna add our meat. I'm using 2 pounds of meat total. I'm using 1 pound of sausage. And this is the sausage I get from my local farm every year. And 1 pound of beef, but I'm actually using bison today. I ordered a 3-pack of bison and beef breakfast sausage, but their breakfast sausage, this is Force of Nature. The breakfast sausage is not necessarily breakfast sausage. It is more like ground beef. So we're gonna give that a try in here. Yeah, it does not smell or look like sausage at all. It looks like ground beef. To that, we're going to add 1 beaten egg. Our onions, which are still pretty warm, but they'll cool down in here, mixed in with the room temperature meat and the egg and those breadcrumbs. So these will be fine. I'm gonna do the classic flavors of Swedish meatball, which is nutmeg and allspice. I'm gonna do about 1/4 teaspoon, but I'm using whole nutmeg. This is nutmeg that I get from Azure Standard, and in the whole form, this will last forever without losing any of its aroma or flavor or nutritional benefits. So I'm just gonna do it right over this bowl, and I'm just gonna estimate about 1/4 teaspoon on my microplane. Smells incredible. Freshly ground spice is amazing. That ought to do it, and I can stick this guy right back in the jar. And we're done with that. And then we're gonna need a little bit of allspice. We're gonna do about 1/4 teaspoon of allspice as well. And that's just gonna bring that classic Swedish meatball flavor to the party. I'm gonna add a little bit of black pepper, about the same amount, 1/4 teaspoon or so, about twice as much salt. So we're going for about 1/2 teaspoon or a good pinch. And I'm gonna throw in just a little bit of white pepper as well. About 1/4 teaspoon. And now comes the messy fun part. We've got to get in here with our hands and get everything mixed and combined well together. Think of it back in the day when you were in grade school or kindergarten and you got to play with the Play-Doh. Think of it kind of like that. It'll help. We're just gonna mix this until it is well combined and you're not seeing, big pieces of any one kind of ingredient or another. We want this just well combined. I think these are gonna be amazing with the bison in here, but they'll be just as good with regular ground beef. And there we go. Now make sure you get all the meat off of your fingers because there is going to be a lot on here. Wear gloves if you prefer to wear gloves. I am fine with just washing my hands at this point and saving on some latex. I don't really have much of a problem with textures, so it doesn't bother me. All right, I am gonna get my hands washed up and I'm gonna clear off some of the ingredients. Actually, I forgot the oregano. I wanna add oregano in here. So let me wash my hands, we'll add the oregano. And since I do have a little moisture on my hands, I'm going to pull those out with a spoon because they're freeze dried. I don't wanna ruin them. It's okay that they get wet in my hand. I just don't wanna get my wet hand in the jar. I'm just gonna crunch those down and sprinkle them in. And I'll do that one more time. Our oven's ready. This does not take long at all. All right, get this mixed in. Oh, that oregano is bringing a wonderful flavor or aroma addition to this mixture. Freeze-dried herbs are amazing. All right, now we're ready to get to rolling. I've got a baking sheet here lined with parchment paper. You can use aluminum foil if you'd like, but you would run the risk of the meatballs kind of adhering and sticking to the aluminum foil. They'll be much easier to pull off of here. We want about 1 to 1.5 inch balls of meat, and that looks perfect. I'm gonna plop him right on the parchment paper. And when you put the meatballs on the tray, you don't want them smushed up next to each other. You want at least a little room between them. They shouldn't spread out on you, but you want them to cook evenly, and so they need airflow between them. You could also pan fry these. That's a very popular way of making meatballs. But again, I wouldn't be able to cook the sauce and the noodles at the same time. And we're trying to make a quick dinner here, a weeknight dinner. By the way, how was your Easter? Did you all have a happy Easter? Do you celebrate Easter? We had a pretty good one here. It was pretty laid back. We had so much good food. We'll probably be eating on that all week. I did make a ham, so I don't know if I will get to freeze dry any of that or not, but I did make one of the smaller hams I have. And we did a nice honey glaze on that in the oven. We did some scalloped potatoes. It was wonderful. And of course we had all the appetizers. It was just a lovely day. Very low key, very relaxed, very introspective and celebratory. Now you want to try to make your meatballs the same size so they cook for the same amount of time. You don't want to pull the meatballs out because some of them look done, but then have larger meatballs that are not even close to being done. You want these cooked through. They've got sausage in them. Another popular way of making meatballs is to use 1 pound of beef, 1/2 pound of sausage, and 1/2 pound of veal. But I don't keep veal in my home, and you know me, I like to use what I have on hand. Now, unless we're cooking something special like we did for Easter with all of our appetizers and things, I did go to the store and I did buy special, but for just dinners, use what you've got. Make do. Don't make special trips to the store. Don't spend that extra money. You probably have a lot of the ingredients that you need in one form or another. This one's a little big. And I'm gonna see if I can make enough. I might have to boil another bag of noodles, but I'm gonna see if I can make enough sauce and meatballs here that I can actually get some freeze-dried as a DIY mountain meal. We'll see. I think we're gonna have probably two rounds of meatballs in the oven, which is good because that would work out really well with a second bag of pasta. And that'll be dedicated to some freeze dryer trays. Also popular to add in here, you can do garlic, you can do different herbs. Meatballs are fun because you get to make them however you want to. I have a friend who makes her own meatballs. She's Italian. And I remember one time she brought me over some homemade meatballs that were mint meatballs. So you can get really creative. The meatball rolling is the most time-consuming part of this meal. And did you know that you can make this ahead of time? You can pre-make and pre-roll these meatballs. Maybe spend a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon putting together a whole bunch of meatballs, and then you can put them on a tray and you can put them in the freezer just like this so that they freeze, not touching each other, they don't stick together. And then you can put them in a Ziploc bag or into a food saver bag, and they will last for months in there. And then when you're ready to make this dish, you can just pull out as many meatballs as you want, and it will be much quicker. These are holding such amazing form, and it has to do with that bread. So breadcrumbs, okay, but bread even better. All right, I don't have enough meat here to do another full tray of meatballs. I'm gonna put 6 more on this pan, and then with whatever's left, I think I'm gonna roll them and put them in the air fryer, and we'll see how those come out. We'll just cook them for the same amount of time at the same temperature as the ones in the oven, but I'll keep an eye on them. My microwave doubles as an air fryer, so that's what I'll use. I think we're gonna get 54 meatballs on this tray, plus a few more, so we'll see how many total. It looks like that was the perfect amount of bread, the perfect amount of milk in that bread. This is holding together so well, and it smells amazing. Gotta move these over, my lines are getting mixed up. All right, let's do the ones for the air fryer. My air fryer tray is not all that big, I don't think. Actually, my son, his air fryer it's like a pizza oven air fryer, so his is big. But mine just has a dinner plate size pan here. And I just washed my hands, and so they're wet and a little slippery now. It's hard to get a good roll on these. That one's probably too big. So these are gonna go into the oven at 375 degrees for about 15 or 20 minutes. I'll check them after 15 minutes. But while they're cooking, I'm gonna get the pot that's on the stove filled with water turned on to high so we can get that boiling. So we can add the pasta. The pasta's gonna take 6 to 8 minutes to cook. And then once we put the pasta in the pan, then we'll work on the sauce, and by the time the sauce is done, the meatballs should be done, the pasta will be done, and everything can just come out and get combined and served. This is gonna be amazing, so delicious, and so easy. But tip, make your meatballs ahead of time and just pull them out of the freezer the day you want to make them. Because this will take you a good 15, 20 minutes right here. Or even longer, depending on how much meat you're using and how big of a meatball batch you're making. I used to spend Saturdays grocery shopping. This is years ago. I used to spend Saturday grocery shopping and Sunday all day in the kitchen cooking, and I would just prepare all of the week meals and have them ready to go in the refrigerator. Some of them I could flash freeze and then just pull them out the morning of, and it just made life so simple. But I did notice I ate a lot more when I did it that way because there was just always food available in the refrigerator. I didn't have to prepare anything except for on Sundays. All right, I'm gonna stick these in the air fryer at 375, these in the oven at 375, and I will get that pot of water started, and I'll bring you back when we're putting the pasta in. Look how good these are looking. These have been in for 8 minutes, because if it was going to be done at the 15-minute mark, I wanted to make sure that I got them flipped halfway through. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm gonna put these back in for another 8 minutes. Our water is just about coming to a boil on the stove for the pasta. So things are coming on nicely, but look at what a good job this air fryer is doing on those meatballs. We're boiling, so I'm just gonna drop in a bunch of salt and then our noodles. And once that comes back up to a boil, they'll be ready in 6 minutes. 16 minutes in the air fryer. Let's see if these guys are done. They should be 165 degrees. We'll see if they need any more time. I'm just gonna push this straight into the middle, but not go past the middle. Oh yeah, we're good. We are done. So that was 16 minutes, 8 minutes on each side in the air fryer at 375 degrees. These look fantastic and they smell amazing. The ones in the oven are not quite done yet, so I'm just gonna set these ones aside. Next tip is make sure you have all of your ingredients ready. I think you saw that I had all of my ingredients either on my board or lined up behind me just to make this go a whole lot faster and you're not looking around trying to find ingredients when you're trying to prep. I just turned my skillet on to about a medium, and I'm gonna melt 2 tablespoons of butter in the pan. We've got our pasta cooking away, and our meatballs should be done shortly. They should be done right when this pasta gets done. But let me take a peek at them. They look really good. They don't have the browned edges that the ones from the air fryer have, but my whole house smells incredible right now. You do not need to get fancy with your ingredients. Keep it simple and it will be delicious. What I'm doing right now is melting down the butter so we can make a roux, because we are going to make the sauce and we want it to have a little viscosity to it. We want it a little thickened. And with our butter melted, I'm gonna go in, sorry, that was 4 tablespoons of butter. Sorry, not 2, that was 4 tablespoons of butter, and I have 4 tablespoons of flour because I'm gonna be using 4 cups of broth. So that's my rule of thumb. 1 tablespoon of the roux per cup of your liquid. And I'm just going to whisk this around and stir to cook that flour out while I'm mixing it with the butter. We don't want this to taste like flour. We don't want it to taste like anything except maybe butter. And we don't want it to taste like raw flour. That should be good. So now I've already made up 4 cups of beef broth. Now I do have home canned beef broth, beef bone broth, beef stock, but I don't want to use that for this. I think that this is going to taste absolutely delicious without needing any help from additional homemade broth, because that stuff is like liquid gold. So this is a beef broth powder that I get at Azure Standard, and if I'm making something like this, where the other ingredients are what is really going to be bringing the flavor, I am perfectly fine using this. I do 1 tablespoon of the beef broth powder to 1 cup of water. So this is 4 tablespoons to 4 cups. And I'm slowly going to add that in the pan here. You can see how nice and thick this is. You still have some more broth to add. We don't want it thick like mashed potatoes. And then we're just going to let this simmer for just a couple minutes. It smells really good. This should thicken up again in just a couple minutes. So I'm going to turn the heat down to low. We want to lower the heat anyway because we're going to be adding some sour cream and we don't want that to curdle. I'm just going to drop that down to a simmer. I just drained the pasta. That is done. This is looking fantastic. It is smelling gorgeous. So I'm going to add just a little bit of Worcestershire sauce, maybe a teaspoon or two. It's just going to help add a depth of flavor. I'm going to add just a little bit of salt, just a pinch, because that sausage has salt in it. A couple dashes of the white pepper. And then some freeze-dried parsley. Remember that by adding the oregano and the parsley, you're actually adding a lot of antioxidants and a lot of vitamins and nutrients that your body needs without even having to think about it. So good, couple pinches of parsley, and we'll get that stirred around. And let this cool off still just a little bit more because we have our sour cream to add. Now, this sour cream has been sitting out since I gathered all of my ingredients. You definitely want it room temperature. You don't want to shock it by having it be cold going into a warm sauce, but we also want to temper it just a little bit. So I'm going to hold off on this for just a minute. And I did get a stem, which I'm usually so careful about taking out when I freeze dry my herbs so that this doesn't happen, but one got past me. Oh, this smells so good. Just pulled out the meatballs and look at this. They look amazing. The simplest Swedish meatballs ever, but so delicious. Now the difference here is these did not get browned on the top like the ones in the air fryer. So we have air fryer and we have oven. You can always turn the oven on to broil if you would like to, get them a little bit brown, but I don't think that's necessary. These are going to be absolutely incredible. I just know it. I'm gonna give this one more stir and we're gonna go in with our 1/4 cup of sour cream, a little at a time. Temper that in. This is gonna help just give it that really smooth consistency, that luxurious feel in your mouth. We're gonna mix that through. This looks so good. Now we can finish the dish. First, I'm going to give this a little taste just to see if we want to add any additional salt or pepper or any other seasonings. I'm going to try to get most of that sour cream off of here. There we go. Let me give this a little taste. Oh my goodness, that is so perfect. That is so perfect. We don't need to add anything. I'm going to add in probably half of these meatballs. And at least half of these if I can get them all in. But look at those. Don't those look fantastic? And they smell incredible. I know I keep saying that, but it is the truth. Gonna get those nestled in there. I'm gonna put in as many as I can, although I won't mind if we have some left over because I can freeze dry these or try to freeze dry these. right, let's go with that for now and let's see what that looks like. This is how many I have left. Plus the ones from the air fryer. And now let's pour our pasta in and get that well mixed. It's gonna heat back up in this sauce. That's gonna help loosen this back up. So we're just gonna get it in there and mix it around. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the heat off at this point. The sauce is hot enough to heat this pasta back up. So the stove is off. And feel free at the end of this to do a final garnish. You can do some scallions, some chives, some fresh oregano, fresh parsley, dealer's choice. Let's see, should we add more meatballs? You know what? I think we can add more meatballs. And get those mixed in. How delicious does this look? Because I gotta tell you, it smells like heaven. Smells incredible. Let's get some plated up. I did go ahead and put in a few more meatballs because I just felt, you know, more could be added. So I have about 8 meatballs left in all. That's okay. If there's some left over, I'll reserve it for freeze drying. Otherwise, I can just make this again, specifically for the freeze drying. Now, what I'm really interested to taste on here is how that bison works in here. I know that everything else goes really well together in here, but I'm interested to see how the meatballs taste. I'm gonna try the air fried meatball first. Ready? Look how yummy that looks. Let's see how it tastes. Oh my goodness, IKEA, move over. These are insanely good. Wow. Wow. They are delicious. I'm sure that the oven meatballs are just as good. Let's give that a try. They're perfect. That bread in here is phenomenal. You cannot tell that there's bread in here. It is firm, but soft. It almost melts in your mouth, and every flavor in here just melds together beautifully. I purposely left out a few ingredients like the garlic and the Dijon mustard that is typically in a meatball dish. I feel that those can be overpowering, and I wanted this to just be a smooth, blended array of ingredients that worked together like magic to bring you comfort food at its finest without the fuss. Here you go. Mission accomplished. I wouldn't change a thing, and I would absolutely do this again and again and again with that bison breakfast sausage. This is so, so good. I wish I could give you a bite. And so, so filling. I'm gonna do just noodles. So good. An easy and yet scrumptious Swedish meatball dish. Thank you so much for joining me for another edition of Tasty Tuesday, Swedish meatballs over egg noodles. My name is Kelly, you're at A Better Choice Homestead, and I do hope you come back and visit again soon.